You're a man. You write about masculinity. You write about fatherlessness. A lot of how this leaves men adrift. What is the state of man today? How just overview? You talk to men? You work with men?
Mhm.
What's the sense?
You mentioned before mixed messages. I think that's a big problem because they're having trouble figuring out how to interact, especially how to interact with women.
Mm,
Um, there's a large portion. Obviously, we're speaking. This entire conversation is going to be very broad.
yeah.
So if it doesn't apply, you know, then don't let it fly, as I say. Um, what I would say is there's a lot of lost men who are out there who don't know how to be men. Um, and what I mean by that is they weren't trained to be men by other men. As a man, you're supposed to be guided by other men. You know, you hear people say women can't raise a man. What they mean is women can't teach us how to be healthy, adequate men, and its fullness, right? They can only give a perspective from a woman how they think that a man should act, and if he's able to accomplish that. But you don't learn how to become a mechanic from a chef. You know, it's I think it's incredibly important for men to get that guidance from their fathers. And unfortunately, children like myself don't have a father that's in the home, or, and I think this is another really big issue. They have fathers who technically live in the home, but work 60 hours a week. Or when they come home, they just watch TV and go to sleep. They're present but absent fathers, and
Mhm,
they never
mhm.
teach their boys anything. They never teach the boys how to be confident. And actually, to kind of answer the broader question, what is a man? Um, the essence of a man is someone who is confident, because all those things that we talk about, protecting women, saying no to someone, is basically establishing boundaries. This is unacceptable. You cannot do that if you have no confidence. Like,
Mm,
that is why weak men get ran over, because they refuse and they're too scared to say, no, I will not tolerate this. And they become pushovers. And then they marry aggressive women who push them over. Then their kids don't respect them, right? So it just creates this entire thing. They go to work, no one respects them, right? They speak down to them and they never defend themselves. So the essence of being a man, it's like the glue that keeps everything together is to be
mhm.
confident. And part of the reason I say this is because I grew up for many years. My biggest struggle was confidence. Um, and when you're a little kid and you mess up, you want someone to say, "Hey, it's okay. Get back at it. Get back out there." Especially as a young man and your father telling you that. If you have your first breakup, you don't want to think that something is wrong with you. That's why she broke up with you. You want someone to say, "Hey, man, it happens to us all, right? It's okay. You're not broken. It's all right." You
Yeah.
need that. And I learned a lot from what I was missing by raising my son, and
Mm,
saw how me being there and me being prepared for when he entered his teenage years, and teaching him things and pulling him to the side, and we talk about these things and I share with him stories so he understands he's not alone. When he does a good job, tell him, great job. If he messes up, it's all right, man. Just keep going at it. You got this. I believe in you. That that is like a massive boost to a child, a young boy. And so when now my son is 20, so when he's out in the world, he has that confidence. So when we talk, he's not speaking, with being unsure if he should do this. It's, I want to do this. I'm
right.
going to do this, right? And he always can come to me to ask questions and things of that nature, to reinstall that confidence if it drops a little bit. But he has a healthy amount of confidence while also being a polite man. There's a difference between being a nice guy and a polite man. And he's a polite man. He's a polite young man.
Yeah. I think it's something that's so interesting too that I've noticed and especially around the last election and past decade or so, part of the thing that I think pushed suburban moms right in particular, in 2024, not this recent uh, knockoff election or whatever. The thing that pushed them that way was that they were raising boys. So it's very challenging to raise men in a society that's also demonizing men. And people
Right.
think, oh, this is just men getting mad about this. People will say, oh, these men, they're crying because they're being demonized or whatever, like toxic masculinity. But you have an entire generation who is grappling with how to raise men also in this environment and felt like it was not fair to their own children in ways that they sometimes couldn't even articulate. So it
Yeah.
wasn't just dads and boys who were feeling this pressure, but also it's not like women are just raising women out there. They have sons.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The thing that comes to mind is when you have a strong father figure, they teach you to do the thing that is right, regardless if everyone around you tells you that it's wrong. And what I see is people who are reacting too strongly to the culture. Because we can
Mm,
all look around and see that the culture is filled with poison. And it's not about, well, how do you fit in to the poisonous environment? It's how do you steamroll that
mm.
environment? How do you keep persevering and going through it and not changing who you are because who you are is correct. If you know within your core that you're a righteous man, you're doing the right thing, you were raised appropriately, then why are you changing who you are? Why should you shift with the wind of the moment because there's some commercial that says men are toxic,
Yeah.
or because there's hypothetically some HR manager who is out to get you or something like that. No, real men stick up for themselves and go through evil all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're dealing with evil, you'll get burned. But you know what? You'll heal and you'll keep moving through. So I
Yeah.
do think I understand where people are coming from. Like, how do you raise boys in an environment that tacitly appears hostile by messaging? Well, it's the same way you raise boys 50 years ago, 100 years
Right.
ago. You tell them to do the right thing, to be strong, and to not bend over to the will of evil people.
Yeah, the politics too is weird because it's taken over everything and it's entertainment now, but it always does feel like everybody's a bit looking for a daddy figure in politics,
Mm.
you know? I see especially like on the fringes, there does feel like there was like this weird stuff with the Obamas where it would be like, come back, mom and dad. And I was like, this is strange weird way to relate to politicians. I don't think that they, like him, Daddy Trump, like protect us, Daddy Trump. He's the like dad that's gonna protect us from all the mean mainstream media bullies. Like all of these dynamics are so fascinating to me because they're always playing out.
Yeah.
These dynamics are they're such archetypes and they're always playing out in all of our interactions and even if it doesn't appear that way, it's still there, layered. But I do think part of what we're seeing now is this intense reaction to men being demonized. And like you said, they're kind of overreacting because if you don't have that central core or you don't have the thing that keeps running through my mind lately is the culture is quicksand. And I
Yeah.
love that you said just steamroll it because it does feel like there's nothing is really stable and you'll take a step and get stuck and you're getting gobbled up by it.
Mhm.
And I love the idea that you have to be able to kind of quickly move across it and know who you are. But if you don't have that, it's easy to become very reactive. I see these younger men, particularly, again, we can talk about this just from the perspective of what we're seeing politically, women becoming extremely more and more left under 40 in particular, and younger men breaking right, young men breaking right in Trump's case for the first time in decades in numbers that we haven't seen, and they feel like they're being attacked. And but then you go so far, you get into misandry and misogyny. It becomes like a hatred
Right.
of men or a hatred of women. And how do you grapple with that when it starts to kind of infect the whole culture?
It's interesting because I have a feeling, this is just a general theory. It's not every single person. But the people that we, let's say the feminists who wear multicolored hair, or screaming, septum piercings and all that, who claim to be feminists, and they have a strong hatred towards men. What I often find is that it's not in a vacuum. Like, it's not for zero reason. There's a They're usually victims of something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so, unfortunately, and I wish more men acknowledge this. I have a lot of female friends, and you have conversations. You learn like how common this is, but many of them are victims of molestation when they were
Yeah.
children, rape,
Yeah.
all different types of
Men
physical
too.
abuse. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But here's the difference: is this for a woman who has been violated, she is the weaker sex in that
Mm.
scenario. And so for her, she needs an explanation as to why that happened to her. Just like any victim, they want to try to heal, and they always go to, why did this happen to me? Why was I victimized? And the bad part, extremely bad part of um, I would say like a misandrous portion of feminism is that they say it's not just that person, it's all men. This is
Yeah.
their nature.
Yeah.
And it becomes a purpose for them. It becomes a reason for them because they've been asking themselves, why did this happen to me? Oh, here's the answer. It's because that's just what men do. And then they build this fear and animosity towards the opposite sex. So that's on the female side when it comes to feminism. But I also ask the same question when it comes to these young men. How come some of them go to the extreme of actually being misogynist, right? And I don't use that word lightly. I don't throw
Yeah.
it around left or right, but it's a strong animosity. They're quick to say women just use you, they take all your stuff, da, 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 right? And what I often find is when people speak, especially with like strong declaration, it's often about them, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not about the issue that they're talking about because they'll say like, yeah, don't date women because they'll use you, they'll sleep with your friend, and they won't return your motorcycle. And it's like, whoa, 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 this sounds very specific, man. I think you're dealing with something, and you're projecting it on the rest of the audience. And
Yeah.
if I can give you like a quick example,
Of course.
there's a I'll call him a YouTuber. There's a YouTuber who is all about men going their own way, being monk, don't have sex with women, don't interact with women, just escape from the society, right? And as time will go on, I'm a consumer of all different types of content. As time will go on, you find out that he was married a couple times, and then you listen, and then one of the times he explains, well, one of my wives was a stripper, and I'm like,
You're like,
wait a minute,
oh.
man. Like, you married the most high risk person for a marriage. Like, why would you do that? And so, because that was a poor decision on your part, and it's not to say like strippers are bad people, but like we all do like a risk analysis,
Yeah.
right? If you date a guy who just got out of jail, that's a high risk that this is not going to work out. So you dated a high risk individual. It didn't work out. Shocked, she cheated on you. And then you say, swear off all women because they're all bad. This is a person who has not healed. And it's not right that she did that. So I'm not excusing her behavior. But we also have to be accountable for our choices, right? You pick this individual. You decide to put a ring on her finger and marry her, right? So you're also equally responsible for your choices, even if they're bad choices.
Yeah.
And that's the part of manhood I think is being lost when you have these guys out here feeding them nihilism about the opposite sex. Meanwhile, say, and on top of that, they say women are never accountable, but this person is never accountable for his mistakes
Yeah.
because he willingly made this choice to marry this type of person, and he is shocked that he got burned. So I think it's really important about the advice that we get from certain people who have not healed. You don't take advice from people who are unwell.
So much of the stuff too that I look around and I don't want what a lot of these people are offering. So it might be, and I do think like some of it is some of the stuff is like edgelording, which is
Yeah.
just men acting out and because they're not driving around breaking mailboxes like they did in Dazed and Confused and like we did in the 90s when you could just when you would like randomly vandalize an abandoned house because you could in the
Mhm.
woods or whatever. This is like that kind of drive-by mailbox smashing. This is my gut instinct about it. I don't know that it's true, but it does seem like this kind of online vandalism, that instinct that you have when you're like a teen to like go, you're crazy, you know? It's funny
Yeah.
how much you forget what it's like to be a teen when you get older, and then you're like, oh God, it's just your brain is being bathed in hormones. You're out of your freaking mind. You're at the peak of like all of these things are peaking, and if you're not going outside, interacting with one another and interacting with the world, you're gonna take that out online, and it's even easier to turn people into caricatures. So, one woman who did something to you, maybe in real life, maybe online,
Mhm.
you got catfish. All women become that thing. Same thing with women versus men. It's
Right.
it becomes this big problem that then, of course, algorithms also exacerbate.